Hey, greetings everybody. It is Gleekon here again. Excuse me, with another episode of Lore of Warcraft. So stay a while and listen to this one. Notable because we are finally within 1,000 years of opening the Dark Portal. This one's called The War of the Shifting Sands, 975 years before the Dark Portal, and based on just the images I just uploaded, I'm going to have to say this one's probably going to have to move us down from Desolus into Silithus, so we have a lot of the regions established now. And we can see the word Ahn'Qiraj on the screen, so this is going to deal with the old god in that region. Here we go. Since the last war against the Troll Empire, the descendants of the Ahn'Qiraj had stayed hidden in their subterranean domains. Only the Mantid of Pandaria remained an active threat. Nearly all of Azeroth's races had forgotten the ruthless potential of the insectoid colonies that lurked beneath the earth. One of these colonies, the qiraji, had taken root in the ancient fortress of Ahn'Qiraj. The keepers had originally built the enormous stronghold to imprison the old god Cthulhu. There, within Ahn'Qiraj's lifeless sandstone corridors, the insectoids had lain dormant. Though Azara and her Night Elf Empire had once known of the fortress, its existence had become lost to time. Few living creatures dwelled near Ahn'Qiraj. This was due in part to the vast and inhospitable desert of Silithus, which stretched out from the stronghold's towering obelisks. Ahn'Qiraj wasn't rediscovered by the elves until Archdruid Fandral Staghelm initiated a quest to regrow the land of Silithus. He dispatched his warrior son Valstan and a group of his most trusted druids to perform this task. They trudged across the scalding dunes, searching for hidden water reservoirs that they could use to transform the region into a lush forest. Valstan and his comrades eventually stumbled across Ahn'Qiraj. Although some of the druids cautioned against entering the fortress, Fandral's son forged ahead. His presence in the cold, dead halls inadvertently roused the dormant qiraji back to life. From its prison beneath Ahn'Qiraj, Cthulhu also became aware of the awakened qiraji. The old god drove the insectoids into a murderous frenzy. The highest castes of qiraji society began organizing their lesser minions, the most numerous of which were known as the Silithid. These vicious insectoids came in many forms and all obeyed the will of their qiraji overlords. The discovery of the qiraji shocked Valstan and his druid companions. Upon retreating from Ahn'Qiraj, they established a small outpost in Silithus to keep watch over the insectoids. Before their eyes, the fortress swelled with greater and greater numbers of qiraji. Then, without warning, a massive army spilled forth from the tunnels beneath Ahn'Qiraj. At the head of this swarming host were the qiraji. They directed their Silithid minions to engulf the surrounding deserts and spread into other regions as well. I wonder if those... I think the qiraji based on doing Ahn'Qiraj, or you've got the Silithids, but then you also have those insectoid... that are almost like big human spider centaurs, which are also in Northrend. But then you also have the like Egyptian Anubis type things. By this time, Valstan had called for help from his father. Fandral rallied a force of druids, sentinels, priestesses, and keepers of the grove to deal with the qiraji threat. In the southern reaches of Kalimdor, the Night Elf host clashed with their vicious foes. At times, they managed to drive the qiraji back toward the dunes of Silithus, only for the insectoids to mount a counterattack and regain the advantage. This ebb and flow continued for many months, leaving in its wake the broken corpses of elves and insectoids alike. The War of the Shifting Sands had begun. Fandral and his comrades established outposts across southern Kalimdor as they prosecuted their war. From these locations, they continued their brutal fight against the qiraji. Eventually, the tireless druids and their allies managed to push the qiraji back into the heart of Silithus itself. And I think this, if you think about it, this has to be going on for like 1,000 years, because in Classic, this is basically endgame. Silithus and opening the gates of Ahn'Qiraj, that's the original endgame. And one of the like rarest achievements in the universe came world first opening the gates of Ahn'Qiraj. One person per server could get it, and it required like massive effort from the entire guild. So yeah, that's just ridiculous. that kind of thing burns me inside, because it's like there are just some achievements you can never get. It would be, I mean, there are just defunct ones, but there are just certain achievements and titles that you could never ever get anymore. It's like when you see someone riding around on Invincible. That's not quite as bad. It's like a 1 in a million chance, and there are millions of people that play Warcraft, and I see way too many Invincibles. So I know there are some grinders out there, but like I know people that have been grinding Invincible for years. I could never do it. All right. Where were we? Okay. Fandral and his comrades established the outposts. Oh, they pushed it back to Silithus. Yet, just as victory seemed within reach, the war took a dire turn. During a feint orchestrated by the qiraji, Valstan was captured and ripped apart before Fandral's eyes. Valstan's death shattered the archdruid and sowed uncertainty throughout the Night Elves' ranks. The qiraji seized the opportunity and swarmed out of Silithus once again, pushing into the eastern deserts of Tanaris. In their fervor, they assaulted the sanctum of the bronze dragonflight, the Caverns of Time. Uh-oh, that's probably not good for them. So that means they crossed out from Silithus across Uldum and all the way into Tanaris. The qiraji's reckless attack spurred the bronze flight into action. Led by Ahn'Qiraj, they enlisted the help of the red, green, and blue dragonflights. The mighty dragons joined the Night Elves and helped drive the qiraji armies back behind the walls of Ahn'Qiraj. But even with the mighty dragons joining the war, the qiraji were too numerous to vanquish entirely. Fandral feared the war would never end. Thousands of elves had already perished at the claws of the insectoids, and he was loath to sacrifice more of his people. Ultimately, he and the dragons devised a means to end the war immediately. They would lock the insectoids inside Ahn'Qiraj itself. The Night Elves and dragons gathered before Ahn'Qiraj to complete this task. Fandral called on his druids to focus their powers as one. Along with Ahn'Qiraj, the elves summoned a great barricade to close off Ahn'Qiraj. Outside the cursed city, the dry earth split wide and a magical barrier of stone and colossal roots emerged. The impenetrable Scarab Wall, towered high over the barren landscape, effectively sealing the qiraji within their city forever. But the Silithids, they can still get around because they're still in those various regions. As a final act, Ahn'Qiraj forged two mystical artifacts, the Scarab Gong and the Scepter of the Shifting Sands. The dragon entrusted the scepter to Fandral. Should the need ever arise to enter Ahn'Qiraj again, he could use this artifact to open the Scarab Wall. Fandral found no solace in ending the qiraji threat, for Valstan's death still tormented his heart. In his rage, he shattered the Scepter of the Shifting Sands, and the pieces became lost for the next 1,000 years, until, like, thousands, millions of World of Warcraft players put it all back together again. Part of me wishes, and I think this is the kind of conceit behind Warcraft Classic in the first place, because part of me wishes you could go back and be part of that again. As much things that are painful that, you know, are less painful when I think back in time, like with the rosy tint of nostalgia, there was a lot of cool things about Warcraft. I mean, obviously, it is the game that I fell in love with. There are games that captured me, but there is none that I've played, not even close to this. Obviously, look at this labor of love that I'm creating for you guys here. So they captured something special, and there are a lot of other things that do it maybe even better now, like Elder Scrolls and Final Fantasy, but there's just something about it that I love. Okay, so this is a picture of the Scarab Wall and the Scarab Gong next to it, that I guess you would beat that gong with the Scarab Scepter. I was not part of a guild that was a world first opener. I actually, like I've mentioned before, in Classic, I was like a casual play when I could. I didn't have my own computer. So I was never part of actively raiding Ahn'Qiraj, and I have gone through it solo with high level characters. And those are the insectoids, the Silithids, swarming out of it. Pretty cool, though. And pretty cool stuff for an original endgame. I think there was also the Blackrock Spire, Molten Core, those kind of areas where the other... And you could fight Ragnaros, which we haven't talked about yet, so... Unless, actually didn't... Maybe he was way back in the beginning in one of our first videos when we talked about the Elemental Lords. Yeah, I think so, actually. Okay, another episode in the Pipes 5x5. I thank you so much for listening to me, and I'll see you all on the next episode of Lore of Warcraft.